Hi, everyone. Judge Andrew Napolitano here for Judging Freedom. Today is Monday, August 5th, 2024. Ray McGovern will be with us in just a moment on has the Mossad been in the U.S. Capitol? Is the FSB in Tehran? But first, this. You all know that I am a paid spokesperson for Lear Capital, but I'm also a customer, a very satisfied customer. About a year ago, I bought gold and it's now increased in value 23%. So $100 invested in gold a year ago is now worth $123. If you have $100 in the bank, it still shows $100, but $100 in the bank is now worth 24% less. Inflation has reduced all of your savings, all of your buying power, and mine by 24%. And gold is largely immune from that. If you want to learn how gold will soon hit $3,200 an ounce, call Lear Capital, 800-511-4620, or go to LearJudgeSnap.com. Get your free gold report. Same experts who predicted the 23% rise that I've enjoyed have predicted this $3,200 an ounce gold. Learn about how to transfer this to an IRA. Protect your savings. 800-511-4620, LearJudgeSnap.com. Tell them the judge sent you. Ray McGovern, a pleasure, my dear friend. Welcome here.
Thanks, Judge.
When Prime Minister Netanyahu addressed a joint session of Congress, was Mossad there with him in the Capitol building?
Well, of course. He always is accompanied by his bodyguards and people from Mossad. That would be my guess in any case.
Is it unusual that a foreign intelligence service should be at the heart of the American government? Ray? Okay, a little bit of a problem with the internet. Ray, I don't know if you can hear me.
I can. You were breaking up for a second.
Okay, maybe both of us were breaking up. I think we're back now. Is it unusual that a foreign intelligence service would be at the heart of the American government?
I know what your question is, Judge. I didn't hear the rest of it, but no, it's not unusual for the... but the Israelis are given carte blanche. They had free entry to the Pentagon right before the Iraq War. That's demonstrated and documented. They have privileges that many of us Americans do not enjoy, no matter how many clearances we have.
What I'm driving at is the Israelis know who was cheering for Netanyahu and who wasn't, so they know if they were getting their money's worth.
Oh, how cruel, Judge. Of course, of course they had other people there to film them. And that's why everyone got up, 58 times and cheered widely. It was just a terrible...
I'm wondering if we should start this over, Ray. Oh, there you are. Okay, you're back. Hopefully, we'll be able to continue. As we speak, Sergei Shoigu, the former defense minister of Russia, now the secretary of the Security Council, which is a position not unlike Jacob Sullivan has in the United States, is in Tehran. What do you think he's doing there?
Well, he's preceded by a whole, a very large number of IL, IL 76s and IL 96s. I wanted to get the numbers right. As they flew from Russia to Tehran. I don't know, but one can depend on the fact that it was military aid, and it could be very sophisticated things like countermeasures, electronic measures against whatever the Israelis are going to throw up against the imminent, and I say imminent, Iranian attack against Israel.
What are these ILs with the numbers after them? What are they? Well, I think we're going to have to start. Go ahead, Ray.
Yeah, I don't know what's wrong.
What are these ILs with the numbers after them?
I'm sorry. Oh, yeah, these are huge transports. They're capable of transporting all kinds of material and all kinds of other equipment, and of course people. But many flights have come from Russia down to Tehran over the last several days. That's just an hour old. I have the TASS in Russian here. It says he's conducting negotiations with his opposite numbers and will be seeing the president of Iran. That's big. The Russians are associating themselves with whatever Iran is going to do. And, it's a sort of a checkmate attempt. It's not going to checkmate what Iran's going to do. What the Russians are hoping is that the Israelis, perhaps warned by the U.S., look, we don't want a major war here, the Israelis will not do what they intend to do in reaction to the oncoming Iranian attack. Now, that's not likely that the U.S. is going to restrain Israel. So we have the makings of a major war. And the new element, of course, is Russia is identified with one of the combatants. And as I started to say before, the Chinese are really ticked off that all this happened right after they had made major effort, a successful effort, as far as I can tell, to blend the Palestinian factions together, to get them working together, which would be a first, but not a first for Chinese diplomacy in that part of the Middle East.
If Iran attacks Israel and this becomes a full-blown war and the United States comes to the assistance of Israel, will Russia come to the assistance of Iran? Next question, will China come to the assistance of Russia?
The answer to that, in my view, the answer to both those questions is yes, but not in an overt combatant way. They'll supply all the diplomatic, all the technical expertise that they can supply. Neither Russia nor China wants to get into a fighting war with the U.S. And the main reason where they can stand aside, so to speak, is because the Iranians are quite capable of doing what they want to do all by themselves, as back in April, they're going to use this time. And what Shoigu is doing there, of course, he was the previous defense minister, and now he's secretary of the National Security Council of Russia. So he's no small guy. What he's trying to say is, look, we got your back, but there are limits to what we can do. Please clue us in on what you are going to do, and we'll see how much we can help you. That's how I read it. The Chinese, they've been very well, you could tell that they're ticked off at what Netanyahu has done after the Chinese almost got those factions together, but they haven't pronounced yet, and I don't see any Chinese high officials coming to Tehran this week.
How reckless and how lacking in credibility and how self-destructive was the Israeli assassination of the Hezbollah leader in Beirut, blaming it and expecting the public to believe that somehow the Hezbollah killed non-Israelis and non-Jews playing soccer in Syria, and that somehow the Israelis are going to come to the defense of the non-Israelis, non-Jews playing soccer in Syria and attack Hezbollah. Who would believe that?
Americans. Judge, now, as many people as watch our show, a small percentage of Americans are dead. And so who would believe that? Americans would believe that, and that's the problem. What else can be said? What Netanyahu has done now is really thrown down the gauntlet. And it looks like, with all the protestations from the White House, and please don't get out of hand here, they're doing nothing. They're sending warships, they're sending an aircraft carrier back into the area with its accompanying ships. They're trying land-based missiles to defend. They're not going to be able to defend this time because they used up most of their missiles last time in April. And another thing is, Iranians didn't shoot really all the hypersonic missiles that they have. There's going to be a major retaliation. What surprises me, in a sense, is that the Russians have decided to identify themselves overtly, in a very overt way, with what the Iranians are going to do. I don't think the Russians are going to temper what the Iranians are going to do, but they're going to give them advice, they're going to give them equipment, and they're going to stand behind them politically when it reaches the UN, as it inevitably will.
Alistair Crook believes that accompanying Minister Shoigu is some sort of high-tech electronic equipment that will neutralize the efforts of the Israeli Iron Dome to locate where the incoming missiles are. So it's not offensive weaponry. It's high-tech electronic equipment to neutralize the Israeli defenses. Does that make sense? And the Russians have this, and it's portable. Does that make sense?
It does. And that explain all the IL-76s as well. These, as I say, are very big transport aircraft. They can carry lots of stuff, and I don't know how many flights there have been there, but there have been many.
Here's Hassan Nasrallah, who's the Hezbollah leader, saying that the enemy must wait for our inevitable reaction. Cut number 3.
The enemy and those behind the enemy must wait for our inevitable reaction, God willing. There is no discussion or controversy about this.
Is there any question but that there will be a reaction and that it will be massive?
No. Now, this one is easy. Both Nasrallah and the Iranians, and Hamas, have made it clear that this was the final straw. Now, how far they'll go is another question, but they have the capability of wreaking havoc in Israel against Israeli airfields. And not only Iran, but Hezbollah has many, many missiles that they can put into play. So, with the situation just getting completely out of hand, and the U.S. sending its warships into the area, you have the makings of a very volatile situation, as some people are predicting World War III. I agree with Alistair, what he says. He's been right on the mark all this while, and I think what we're expecting here is something really, really out of hand. And I think maybe the Russians and the Chinese not only are supporting Iran, but are also counseling a little bit of caution, because neither the U.S., neither Russia nor China want to get involved in a big war with the U.S., but they're happy to support Nasrallah, Hamas, and Iran in doing what they intend to do in retaliation for these indignities that have happened over the last week.
Let me get your take on the murder of Hanaya in Tehran. The New York Times reports, relying on unnamed sources, probably Mossad, that Mossad planted a bomb in his room 2 months ago and knew when he was there and detonated it. Alistair Crook reports from a friend of his who was in the building that there was no bomb. It was rather a projectile from outside the building that hit it at 3:15 in the morning after the man went to bed at 1:30 in the morning, which is more. Yeah. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, Alistair, as usual, is quite correct, and this time he has a source I didn't know he had. That's what the Iranians are saying. They waited a couple of days to investigate, and the New York Times is pretty disingenuous. What's the Times trying to do? They're trying to stir up problems within Iran by suggesting that some of the Iranian security agents were involved in perpetrating this bomb. It's bollocks, as the British say. It's BS. The investigation now is completed by the Iranians. I believe them, and the New York Times story is falling apart. And of course, their aim was to create consternation within the security forces of Iran. That's not going to do it. The Iranians have figured out they figured out where the missile came from, and I'm glad to hear that Al Starr has a first-hand source on that one.
Oh, this person, he says, is a friend of his who was staying in the building on the 4th floor. Haniyeh was killed on the 2nd floor. How coordinated is the resistance? By which I mean, if this becomes a full-blown war, will other regional actors that have military power get involved against Israel?
Yes. The Houthis are the best example. Now, they can be considered part of the resistance, if you will, but the Houthis can raise hell in that part of the location. They're at a choke point there. They can cause hell. They can actually, if the USS Abraham Lincoln goes anywhere near Yemen, you better watch out, because they have missiles that can sink aircraft carriers, that can actually destroy their deck, if not sink them, and that aircraft carrier would just be a sitting duck for the next missile. So yeah, the Houthis are the first that come to mind. You have enough with Hamas, Hezbollah, and Iran. There are people in Syria and in Iraq who hate the Americans. In Syria for coming unwell.
There's the president of Syria with President Putin. Do we have you back yet, Ray? No, we still don't. Well, obviously, Vladimir Putin is not going to allow any serious damage to happen to Syria
right now. I don't know. Oh, okay, you're back.
Yeah, go ahead, Ray.
Well, I hadn't heard anything more from you, but I just finished saying that the Houthis are example number one, but the resistance forces in Iraq and Syria have their own axes to grind, and they will be quite willing to wreak havoc on what remains of the American presence in both those countries.
How about Turkey and Egypt? Are they likely to do anything militarily with their troublesome neighbor?
Judge, Turkey is talking a big game. It may be that somebody's going to call them on it and say, all right, what are you going to do? If this gets out of hand, and it's likely to, I would expect the Turks would have to do more than just talk. With respect to Egypt, my God, they are in such debt, and so they're under such U.S. influence that Sisi is sort of not able to do anything other than to tell Tony Blinken, as he did 300 days ago, if you think you can drive the rest of the Palestinians into Egypt, forget about it. That's exactly what Blinken was trying to sell to al-Sisi. At least al-Sisi is standing up to that measure. Whether he'll do any more, doubtful.
Chris, do we have President Erdogan's recent statement about it may be necessary for us to enter Israel?
In the defense industry, where have we come to? But my dear brothers and sisters, let none of these fool us or should deceive us. We must be very strong so that this Israel cannot do these ridiculous things to Palestine. Just as we entered Karabakh, just as we entered Libya, we will do the same to them. There is no reason for us not to. We only have to be strong so that we can take these steps.
Is that credible?
It wasn't credible before the events that are about to happen in the next couple of days. It may become credible. Now, the two examples that he had used, Karabakh and Libya, they didn't really enter the fray there with Turkish troops. They threatened, they did send some to Libya, but it's not a matter of entering Israel unless things get out of hand. And I've been saying that all along. If the Israelis go after Hezbollah in a really big way, as they're likely to do right now, even if it's so-called retaliation for what they're about to suffer, Turkey might have to put its arms behind its mouth, and he may be forced to enter the fray, particularly since, you know, it's a little embarrassing to find the Houthis doing all the heavy lifting here, and Turkey, with the most powerful army in the area, standing back and just making empty threats.
One of our viewers writes in, Turkey should change its name to chicken. all Erdogan has to do is shut off the oil. Doesn't nearly all of Israeli oil come from or through Turkey?
That's been my impression, and I've been asking why he doesn't do that if he's going to be so tough, and he hasn't done it yet, to my knowledge.
Okay. Ray, thank you very much, my dear friend. Thanks for your insight. Thanks for your time. I'm sorry for the internet troubles. Hopefully they won't bother us again. Maybe it's your former employers trying to prevent you from saying the truth.
Well, they have ample reason not to be pleased with me, but those who tell the truth have to expect that kind of thing, Judge. I hope it's not, but otherwise my computer is working just fine.
Okay. Thank you, dear friend. All the best. We'll see you at the end of the week with Larry for the Intelligence Community Roundtable. Talk to you then.
You're welcome. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Bye-bye. Sorry for those interruptions, but it's always great to talk to Ray, even if his face freezes. At 11 o'clock this morning, Larry Johnson. At 2 this afternoon, Anya Parampol. At 4 this afternoon, always worth waiting for, Scott Ritter, Judge Napolitano for Judging Freedom.